Hola clase, hoy vamos a aprender mandatos formales. Formal commands, also known as polite commands. So what are commands? Commands are when we boss people around, when we tell them what to do. If I were given a command to somebody that I don't know very well, I would use the polite command. That's the one we're going to learn today. Now, that polite command I'm going to be using with usted. Now, I could also use it with ustedes. So, if we were in class, I would say, for example, abran sus libros, levanten la mano. Those type of commands I'm giving to ustedes, you all. So, that's basically what we're going to be learning today. So, let's get into the details. So take a look at usted. In the first example, a person is talking to Don Francisco. And this person is telling Don Francisco, talk with them. In the second one, somebody, perhaps a doctor, is giving advice to a patient and saying, eat fruits and vegetables. They're using the formal command. The informal one, just to remind you, would be habla con ellos, Francisco, o come frutas, Verónica. But this is formal. And here's an example of ustedes. Laven los platos ahora mismo. So somebody is giving orders to some individuals. Beban menos té y café. Now let's see how we can conjugate. Let's first take a look at limpiar. Limpiar ends in AR. So the way that you're going to conjugate these is first you're going to conjugate it in the yo form, in the present tense. Limpiar, how do I say I clean? Yo limpio, limpio. Then you're going to drop this O from the yo form. And if you want to put together the usted command, you're going to add an E. Okay, so drop the O, add an E, and that's your usted command. And for ustedes, N. So you just be adding an N to that, EN. What about ER verbs like barrer, to sweep? Well, first, put it into the yo form. And now, if you want to make it into an usted command, drop the O, add an A. And for the ustedes command, drop the O, add an. And here's an example of an IR verb, sacudir. Yo sacudo. Drop that O for the usted command, add a. For the ustedes command, add an. So that's the rule. Now let's take a look at some verbs that are stem changing. Remember, the stem changing ones are the ones where something changes in the stem, in the first part of the sentence. For example, decir, that E becomes an I. If I conjugate decir in the yo form, it changes to digo. So that stem has changed from DEC to DIG. In the usted command, that stem change remains. The key for you is going to be to put it in the present tense of the yo form and then just add the regular ending. It's an IR verb, so we're going to be adding a y an. Okay? The rest of them are examples of verbs where the stem changes. Pensar becomes pienso. Volver becomes vuelvo. Servir, sirvo. We want to make that into a command. After we conjugate it into the yo form, we can just drop that O and add the ending. Si es un verbo que termina en ar, aumentamos E o en. Los verbos que terminan en er e ir, aumentamos a y an. So, to summarize, what you need to do, make it into the present tense. For yo, drop the O and add the endings that we just talked about. If you find irregular forms in the present tense, in the commands they're still irregular. Ejemplos: conducir, conocer, decir, hacer, ofrecer, oír, poner, salir, tener, traducir, traer, venir y ver. Ejemplos: oiga, salga, ponga, hagan. So for all of those, the key is to make sure that you conjugate them in the yo form, present tense, and then add the appropriate endings. Stem changes. This is what I explained earlier. If they stem change in the present tense, they also stem change in the usted and ustedes commands. Then we have some verbs that have a spell change. If they end in car, gar, y sar, como sacar, gar, jugar, o sar, como almorzar. If you make them into the command form, they will have a spell change as well. So make sure that you pay attention to the ending and just know that if they end in any of these, the command form is going to have a spell change. And then there's these 5, dar, estar, ir, saber, y ser. They are irregular. So you need to memorize the commands. Dar, de, y den. Estar, esté, estén. Ir, vaya, vayan. Saber, sepa, sepan. Y ser, sea, y sean. What happens if I want to make it into a negative? Just put the no right in front of, in this case, ponga, ensucien. No ponga, no ensucien. What happens if I have pronouns? For example, reflexive, indirect, or direct. Then in that case, if it's an affirmative command, attach it. Ejemplo. Siéntense. Sígame. Acuéstense. Pónganlas. And if that happens, then you're going to need an accent. Límpielo. Dígamelo. Léanlo. Sacúdanlos. However, if you have negative commands, then those pronouns, reflexive, direct, or indirect, they're going to precede the verb. No se preocupe, no me lo dé, no los ensucien, no nos las traigan. You can also use the word usted or ustedes right next to the command, and what that will do is it'll make you sound even more formal. For example, muéstrele usted la foto a su amigo. I could have just said, muéstrele la foto a su amigo. Same thing here, tomen esta mesa. But if I say, tomen ustedes esta mesa, it just makes it sound more formal. So next, we're going to practice. I'm going to share with you some activities. These activities that I'm going to share with you are not in your book, but I think that they're very helpful. So I will add the handouts on Blackboard so that you can follow along. So hopefully you have them with you when you're going through this. Now, let's practice. In activity 1, la señora González quiere mudarse de casa. Para cada uno de estos vamos a poner un mandato formal. So we're going to be telling her what to do. And they give us here in parentheses which ones we need to conjugate. So go ahead and pause. Try to fill it out and then come back. I'll give you the answers. And here are the answers. lea los anuncios, guárdelos. In this case, we had to attach a pronoun. Vaya personalmente, vea las casas, llame a la gente, pídale. Another one where we had to attach a pronoun. Contrate un camión, pregúnteles, esté tranquila, vuelva, dígales. Número 6. This one also has a pronoun that we attached. Primero, dígales. However, the sentence that follows it, no les diga. It still has that pronoun, but this time, because it's a negative command, we put it before diga. Número 7, saque tiempo, no les haga, no se preocupe, sepa que todo va a salir bien. Now go ahead and go to, still on page 420, go ahead and write commands, logical commands for each of them. For the first two, one could have been abran sus libros. Número 2, cierre la puerta. Número 3, traiga usted la cuenta, por favor. La cocina está sucia, bárranla, por favor. 5, duerma bien, niña. 6, arreglen el cuarto, por favor, está desordenado. Lastly, what I will ask you to do is activity 5. Imagine that you're preparing a script for a TV commercial. And the ad or the commercial has to be about a detergent, an appliance, or a real estate agency. For this, go ahead and use commands. And here they give us an example. Compre el lavaplatos de Stellos. Tiene todo lo que usted desea. Venga a verlo. No pierda ni un minuto más. Go ahead and include at least 4 commands. All right, that's it for polite commands. If you guys have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video. Adios.